Hello, friends, and welcome back. We are in episode 5 of this foundation tutorial series for ZOAPIIO. So, in the last episode, this is where we had left off. We had created a service which is to fetch the providers, and this is the code that we had written. Now it's time to test it. Let's do that. So, we have the URL, and we are going to use the latitude longitude, which we have copied from Google Maps. And this point again represents the Heathrow Airport. So well, let's run this service. And this is the response we got. These are the providers that the service has returned, which is exactly what we had planned for: the ID, name, and the logo. Okay. Now it's a good time to take a look at one of the debugging tools. So there is a full-fledged debugger which requires configuration. So I wouldn't say that you jump right away into it. Well, it's a very powerful debugger. But an equally effective tool is the log viewer. So let's give that a try and see what we get. So here we select the log, which is the one we had assigned for the trace, and then we say search, and we say search for providers, which is the name of our service. And we say search. So here we're going to get all the log entries which have uh, this word in it. And the very first line is the one that says processing service. That means this service was called. So we click on this link, and now we get a complete trace of the service we're talking about. Okay. So it just runs through exactly what statement it's running, what are the results, and everything. Okay. Now here, look at the statement which says sending to split providers, and this is the URL we are calling, and this is a get service, so there is no data. But this is the response we got. So if you click on this, now we can see this is the response that came from that service. So we can actually analyze if something had actually gone wrong. It would be a good idea to just see whether some data didn't get sent correctly or something wrong with the way it was received. You can debug these things. And this is a very convenient tool. And someplace, if you, it's a little, it'll take a little time for you to get used to reading this. But every rule that it's executing, it's actually printing out what happened. And this is the final JSON which was returned, which is exactly what we had received. So this is something that you should keep in mind. Let's just close this and get back to our project. So now I'm not going to do other services. What I'm going to do is at the end of this episode, and before we start the next episode, I would have developed all those services, added them to the project, and perhaps I will just walk you through some of the key features of what we're doing in those services. So right now I want to start off on doing the user interface or the web front end. Okay, that's one of the exciting features. Let's do that. So here under business flows, what we're going to do is we're going to create an entry called the web application. Okay, so this you will see there are a lot of settings here, and because yes, the web application is really it does require those many properties to be provided. So I'll come back to it. Before that, let me also add something called the app commons. Now, the app commons is an area where we're going to put things that we're going to share across applications. So in the same project, I can have multiple web applications. But things like assets, some style sheets, and some data that can be shared across multiple applications will be put here. So let's go back here. And we are going to give it a URL. Okay. So let's say we say slash WA. Now WA is reserved for a web application. And again, this prefix is mandatory. Otherwise, system would not know how to process this prefix or this URL. Right, and the target for us, we can just select web for simplicity, and these values we have to provide a mnemonic name, and the market name is a hello taxi service. Okay, now here are some details required for the login and the registration. So I will just put in some values and come back and explain to you what these are. Okay. Login text is, let's say, login. Log out is, here's some of the configuration. Sign up. Foundation project is we're going to select as foundation. Okay. Here, when we are building a web application, the functionality of and the login is managed by the services which were generated as a part of the foundation application. So we need to specify this so the system knows as to what services to invoke for the purpose of sign up and sign in functionality. Okay, some more details. Require username, we can say no. Require email, there are two options. We can say yes or with verification. Right now, let's just select yes, which means the user has to give an email, which we are not going to verify. Same with, let's leave phone number no. If we provided, if we selected the with verification is with either the phone or email, then we need to write another service, and we need to provide the name of that service here, which will actually do the sending of the email and sending of the SMS or the text with the verification tokens. So that's like looks like everything else is optional. So we will just save it, and we can come back and change some of the things. For example, opening page. Now, when this application starts, it has to have a opening page, and right now we will just leave it blank because we don't have any pages. And let's just do a save. Now in this app, we're going to start adding the pages one by one. So let's start by adding an app page. And this page is, we call it the home. And label is home. Does it require a login? This is a setting we can control that before a page enters, system will automatically insert the login functionality if the user is not logged in. So we leave this blank because home page is open to everybody, and we just say save. Now we got the home page. Then we get back to the application and we say the opening page as home page. Right? Before we forget, let's do this. So now we have a blank page and an app configured. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create an app navigation. Okay, this is also important because we need to create a navigation. And here we're going to say is the main nav. We can provide a logo, and I think it's a good time to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the app commons. Within that, we're going to create app assets. And within the app assets, we're going to say app image. We'll give it a call, say logo. We're going to go and do the choose file. And then here we have this logo, which I had copied. Say load from file, that's our ZOAPIIO logo. And we say save. So now we have created a image in our application under commons. And now we can come back to our main nav and say I'm going to use that logo in the navigation bar. And then we say what kind of navigation bar. So we will say the top nav bar is going to be fixed, which means let's say fixed. Fixed as in when the page scrolls, the scroll bar will not move. And similarly, the bottom nav bar, let's leave none. We don't want one at the bottom. Some of the settings we can give to control the styling, let's leave it out and do a save. Now we have a basic navigation configured. Within that, let's add a nav command. And we say log in, log out. And we're going to say that put this in the top nav bar on the menu. So there are various options. We can put it on the left, on the right, or we can put it on the drop down menu. So let's say right. That's fair enough because we don't have too many links. There's no bottom bar, so we leave it out. Action is load page. No, action is log in, log out. So what he's saying is that has a navigation bar and it's got a button, and the job of that button is to log in if you're logged out or log out if you're logged in. The login logout is automatically managed when the page transition happens, depending upon if a page has a requirement of login being present before that happens. So that the system manages, but this is available as well. Now let's add another page, a blank page. And this is for, let's say, the booking. This is the second step. After you've done the search, you go to the next page, which is the booking page. And yeah, yes, this will require login. So we check this. You can't go to the booking page until you have executed a login. And right, I think this is fine. We can create another one, new page, which is for the booking query. It also requires login. So let's check this. Then to the navigation bar, we can add more nav commands. We can say query, and the label, we put it on the top nav bar again to the right, and label is get booking. That means something booking you've done before, you want to check the status. Load page is correct, and we say this goes to the query page. Okay. So when we configure the nav commands, we have an option of providing an icon. And you can go to the material design library online and find an icon that suits your requirement and give the name here. Okay, similarly for the query, we can do it. When we come back and as we complete the app, I'll populate these values. But this is how the rough structure will progress. Now let's go to the home page and start designing the page. Okay. So inside page, we are going to have an app view, which is the root view. And then the layout is block, which is perfectly fine, and we do a save. You can, in your, as you experiment with the applications and stuff, you can visit these display properties, detailed styling. There's a fairly lot of information available that you can provide with the view, and you can play with this and see how they affect your page layout. Now here, what we can do is we can drag and drop this here. So we get some sort of a very sketchy visualizer for the view. Now here what I can say is I can add another view. And I'm going to say this is the LHS, which is the left hand side. And the layout of the left hand side is, let's say, it's a column. Because what we are getting to, let me just, so there are two columns, the left hand side and the right hand side. And there is a search window. So no, this is not what we want to do. We need to first create a search block. And then we're going to create a results block. Okay, and we go back here, edit the properties of the root view, and we say column. This means in layout, search is going to be on top and results is going to be at the bottom. Now inside the search, I'm going to add two app views. One is the LHS, and this itself is going to be a column. Then we're going to do this is going to be the RHS, right hand side. This is also a column. Now we're going to go back to the search, and in the properties, we're going to change this to a row. This means that the search block itself is going to be a row layout, LHS on the left, RHS on the right, and each one of these are actually columns because they have elements in them. So then we'll go in here and we say we have to add an app element. Okay, now let's call this origin lat long. It's an input field. It's an input field, and we say we'll come back to the value bind. There's no value binding here, and we give it a label. We say origin we can give a help. Save. And similarly, we add more app elements, and similarly to the right RHS, we add more elements. This is how you create the layout of your page. Let's just for the sake of it, let's do this. Let's deploy this. Now, and let's come here and say launch app. Okay. So we got something, right? We got the logo, we got the login button, we got the get booking button, we got this input field, which is the origin, latitude, longitude. We didn't get the spacing, and somehow it seems to have gone into. So we need to create right paddings and clean it up. So to give you an idea, this is how you create the pages. And I'm going to break off this episode now because I'm going to create all these elements, page layouts, and then when we open the next episode, we will have all the services in place and we will have all the layouts in place, and I'll walk you through each one of those layouts. We're also going to be writing some scripts which I will walk you through in the next episode. So, right now, I'll just sign off. I'll see you in the next episode.